How did Monsterpalooza go? How can you help a fellow indie author? And have you tried They Hide? All that and more in this week's Indie Author Showcase. Welcome to the Indie Author Showcase, the podcast by indie authors for indie authors. I am your host, multi-award-winning author Chad Robert Morgan, and let's get started. First, we have a fan. First, I was rocking it at Monsterpalooza, and we'll get to that in a minute. When this guy comes up, he's like interested in the books and everything like that. He's like, "Yeah, I watch you on YouTube." I'm like, "You're the one viewer?" So I was like, all excited. Somebody's actually watching this show. I'm not just shouting into the void. So, I mean, this is really good because, I mean, again, I didn't expect to hit Joe Rogan numbers on the first day kind of thing. You know, I mean, it's going to take time. I've been doing this this is my third year doing this. The show has changed a lot since the beginning because in the beginning I was doing it with my son, and you know now he's graduated high school and moving away. So, you know, I'm rocking it solo these days. I really would like to find another co-host, but I don't know how I would even work that with the books and everything like that. It's just such a thing. So I'm just excited that people are seeing the show. They're watching it, even if the numbers are low, and we're getting people's names out there. That's the purpose of the show. Is, you know, I was sitting there at WonderCon seeing a whole hall of indie authors all trying to do the same thing, get their name out there, get people to recognize them. So the Indie Author Showcase was born, trying to get everybody exposure, anybody who I feel is good, right? And we do it across platforms, across genres, across styles. We've done, you know, everything from hardcore erotica to children's books. We've done everything from gory horror to paranormal romance. I mean, we're really running the gambit here in terms of, you know, sci-fi and fantasy and everything in between that we can find. I'm really trying to keep it as open as possible. The only qualification is it's got to be indie or small press, and it has to be a certain quality bar, right? And there's been a few people that have given me their books that I struggled to get through, not because of the content, but because of how it was written. So I do try to cultivate really quality indie authors here, and most of them I have read are good. Okay, some I've read are great. Most of them are at least good, but there's been a handful. But it really means something to me that at least in a small scale, this podcast is succeeding. Now, with your help, we can succeed even greater. If you like this podcast, like and subscribe, share it to your friends, especially friends that are interested in reading, interested in indie authors, interested in being an indie author. And let's try to grow this community. In fact, to that end, we were talking a little bit about Monsterpalooza. I'll get to that in a minute. There was a gal that I saw there that just had bags of books, and that was her goal, was to go around Monsterpalooza finding authors. And to that end, I was like, you know, we should start like a hashtag for next time for social media, something like, you know, authors of Monsterpalooza or something like that, to make it easier for people to find us. To that end, I actually do owe an apology to our friends at Monster Matador. So before Monsterpalooza, I was posting up images on Instagram. I was doing a carousel of writers of Monsterpalooza. Now, I was limiting to people that have showcased on the podcast, right? It didn't include authors I hadn't met yet, and it didn't include authors whose books I have that are still on the TBR. But in that list should have been Monster Matador, and I didn't know he was going to be there. So I missed him, and I actually walked up to him at the convention, and I said, dude, I owe you an apology. I was doing this post, and I left you out. I shouldn't have done that. I thought I didn't know you were going to be here. That's my bad. I wanted to update it. Didn't have time. I was swamped. I am so sorry. So, apologies to our friends at Monster Matador. It's a really good book. It's a really fun book. The plot of Monster Matador is basically kaijus come out, and these matadors turn their bullfighting skills into kaiju fighting skills. Which, if you think about it, kind of is a logical progression. I mean, they're already trained to fight big giant animals. They're just fighting big giant animals out of the ring and trying to save villages instead of just doing shows. The only funny part is he's still dressed up as a matador, and he's like, you know, kind of. I mean, at some point you would think maybe the showmanship wasn't as necessary, but no, he's still, standing up like that. But no, it's a cool, fun book, and it's worth checking out. And I did meet a couple more authors there. I'm getting through their books now. If they hit the quality bar, one of them's already hitting the quality bar. I got some critiques, but we'll do that when we do their book. And the other one I haven't started yet, but we're getting there. So enough hinting about it. Let's talk about Monsterpalooza. Was it good? Yes, it was good. It's always good, right? I don't know how these guys buck the recessions like they do. The downside of Monsterpalooza is it is expensive, and I actually had an opportunity to downgrade. I bought the booth, and he said, well, we can put you in a table, and I second guessed myself. I was like, well, I've already paid for it. The damage is done. Kind of have mixed feelings about that, because my booth is in a good spot where I get a lot of traffic, and I've actually had at least one person look for me. Says, I couldn't find you, but I knew you were over here somewhere, right? So if I had moved, he might not have been able to find me. So I'm highly motivated to keep that booth, because they put me in the same location every year. But it's expensive. And I think this is the first year I sold nothing but books, right? So I go in there, I usually bring t-shirts, I bring 3D printed monsters, I got the custom book stands, I got the big monsters, so I have some supplemental things that usually get me an extra couple $100 in the show. And this year, no, I sold over $1,200 in books. That's it. No 3D printed monsters. I didn't even bring t-shirts this time, because t-shirts don't sell very well for me, to be honest, right? Because it's an independent IP. I sell a few. I sell a couple, but I mean, it's not a big seller, and it's usually more effort than it's worth. But I usually sell like at least one or two of the little glow-in-the-dark monsters. Nothing. Just books. And Fear almost sold out. I had one copy in paperback and one copy in hardcover. That was it. I went in there with about 20 copies in paperback, and I left with one, which is a pretty good spiel there. That's a pretty good. And hardcover, I didn't actually have a lot of copies, to be honest. I had like maybe 9. But I was down to 1. Baby Eater sold pretty well as well. Those two were selling really, really well. Monsterpalooza was fantastic, and more importantly, I walked out. Because if you've been watching the podcast, you know that last year I did not walk out. I tripped, fell, split my face open, busted up my knee, and had to be carted out on a stretcher. So I was so happy when I walked out under my own power. And I mean, it was a little macabre, because again, they're putting me in the same booth that I was in last year. So I'm like checking the carpet looking for blood stains. And I'm like, oh, they cleaned this up really well. I can't see a trace. So Monsterpalooza is just a really fun convention. It's one of the big four conventions here in Southern California. We have Monsterpalooza, followed by Son of Monsterpalooza, which we will be at in October. We have Creep I.E, followed by Creep I.E Aftermath, which has been moved up to July. It was originally in September, but they were basically butting up against like Universal Halloween Horror Nights and stuff like that, and it became a thing last year. So they moved it up to avoid conflicts. Then you have Creep It Real, Creep It Real OC, which is in Santa Ana, followed by Creep It Real Festival, which is a really fun one. That one's later in the evening, and it's at night, and all the Christmas lights are out, and that one's really fun. And then the big one, the one I still cannot get into, is Midsummer Scream, which should be, I think, this month, I think. So that Midsummer Scream is huge. I actually had a friend, Casey Cordell. She got in and she says, "Yeah, I sold really well. Did you go back to?" No, I was busy. I'm like, "You gave up your table? Are you insane? Give it to me." So, but those are the big conventions. I mean, I'm sitting there driving Uber, and I had a horror fan in the car, and I was like, "Hey, you check out Creep I.E." What the hell is Creep I.E? Got to get the name out there. Got to get publicity out there. People don't know that these things, as busy as these places are, there's still people that don't know they exist. So we need to get the name out. With that in, I'm hoping I get a promo code, because what Creep I.E has done in the past is they hand out promo codes, and they have a contest with the vendors. Whoever gets that promo code out there the most wins a free booth next year. And I haven't got my promo code yet, so I haven't been plugging it. So we will see. I didn't get it last time either, which was weird. I don't know, but I haven't seen any promo codes yet, so it hasn't started yet, I don't think. So we'll see. Fingers crossed that they fix it this time. I wanted to talk a little bit about what you can do to support your fellow indie authors. Because I had a few people come to the booth, tell me how wonderful my work is, which is always a good thing, right? Because, I mean, let's be honest. As an author, you have a story, you want to share it, and you want people to like it, right? If you didn't care whether or not people liked your story, you probably wouldn't publish it. You might write it and just stick it on a shelf somewhere, right? You want people to read your stuff. You want people to like your stuff. I think that's just across the board. So, I mean, we're pleasers, right? We want to please people. We want people to, read our stuff and want more, and not because we're going to make money off of it, but because we want to tell more stories. I had one guy come by, and he picked up The Baby Eater. He had read The Last Rite, and he said, "That was one of the best books I've ever read in my life." And I'm like, "I'll take the compliment, but it sounds like you're not reading enough, to be honest." I mean, I think The Last Rite's a good book, but best he's ever written? I mean, I it's no Catcher in the Rye. Come on. I mean, it's good, but I don't think Hemingway is losing sleep. I know he's dead, but you get my meaning. I don't think Stephen King's sitting there going like, "Oh my God, there's this new author. He's going to get all my sales." No, it's not happening. Okay, it's a good book, but best he's ever written, best he's ever read, I should say. But I don't know. Maybe it just resonated with him. I mean, 50 Shades of Grey was kind of crap, but it sold well because it resonated with people. It filled a certain need that was apparently not being met. So, maybe it just jived with him, right? And maybe it just hit that right chord that needed to talk to him. So, who knows? But I mean, it was still a real good kudos. I'm like looking at my wife. Did he say one of the best or the best. Which did he say? I want to quote him correctly here. I had a group of people up at the booth. They were I'm doing my sales pitch. I'm trying to convince them that my books are worth reading. When another person comes up to the booth and says, "Oh yeah, I want to get that your latest book. He's really a good writer. I love his stuff. The last book I wrote was great," and it convinced the first guy to buy my book. He's like, "Oh well, if he thinks it's good." So I mean, that was a great help. And if you are reading indie authors and you like what the indie author is writing, the first thing you can do to help is tell people you liked it, right? Whether it's in person. In person always is nice, right? I mean, it's, we're in a vacuum, right? We're sitting there, we're selling our books. They go out into the wild. I have no idea if they like it or not. I've had guys that have bought it come back next year. It's like, oh, it's still on my TBR list. Okay. It's kind of hard to sell you the next book if you haven't read the first one, but I don't want to just build up your TBR list. I want you to read it. I have people just, oh yeah, I got it. I liked it. You want the next one? Maybe next time. And they walk off. I don't know. So, I mean, we are kind of alone in the void, and to tell us that you liked it, to tell us that you didn't like it, tell us what you thought was wrong with it. I mean, if it came back, I was like, oh man, there was a spelling error on page 7. I'm like, okay, I can fix it. I had a guy do that at the booth one time. He's like checking out. He opens up the book, turns it to some random page, and he's like, puts it down and walks away. And I was like, what? Did he find a dangling parsicle? I mean, what the fuck was that? I had no idea what he saw, what he read. He turned to some random page, and I mean, just a look of disgust on the guy's face. So, I mean, I don't know what, maybe he didn't like the horror. I mean, it was a horror convention. So, I don't know. Didn't say a goddamn word. And so, we have situations like this, and you start feeling like dirt, right? You're like, oh my God, I worked so hard trying to get these books out. I'm trying to do something. I'm an indie author, so I mean, it's if I don't have an editor, or if I do have an editor, I'm paying like $1,000 for this editor. I don't have a lot of support to make this book happen that a traditional publisher would have, right? Traditional publisher, they're going to have an army of people to make sure that every T is crossed, every I is dotted, and I'm basically by myself with whoever I can afford to help. And then some guy does that and just walk, and you just feel like dirt. You're like, you feel like a failure, right? And then immediately after, some guy goes, oh yeah, let me get the next one. I got the first one. I want to get the next one now because the first one was so good, and that lifts you back up. So it's totally great to swing by the booth of your favorite indie author and say, dude, that was fantastic. Dude, I love that. That was great. The second thing you can do is tell other people, which is, like I said, happened at the booth. Guy was up there, oh yeah, no, this guy's a great author. I love his work. It's very, the way it flows and everything. I love this guy's work. And then helps tell other people that they can trust me as an author. I would say, though, that the third thing that you could do is tell the world. Leave a review. Leave a review on Goodreads. Leave a review on Amazon. Leave a review on Barnes & Noble. Post it on social media. Say, hey, I got this book at Barnes & Noble. You don't even have to put your face on there. Just take a picture of the book. I got this book at Monsterpalooza. It is the best book I've ever read in my life. 7 stars, whatever. I mean, it's just, tell the world, help get the name out there. And it doesn't need to be me. I mean, there are way more authors at Monsterpalooza. There's way more authors at a lot of these cons. WonderCon had just a whole hall of indie authors. We've signed up for LA Comic Con, and I checked that one out. That had an even bigger hall that was filled with indie authors, some of who we've met, like Doug Brody. Tell the world. Leave a review. Post it on social media, whatever you need to do, but let people know. If you like a book, let people know. It's the easiest thing you can do to help. So let's go on to this week's showcase. This week's showcase, somebody I met at WonderCon, even though it is a horror book, is They Hide. Short Stories to Tell in the Dark by Francesca Maria. I always like the name Francesca because it reminds me of Mad Monster Party. Have you ever seen that movie, Francesca? They had the redhead that turned out to be the if you've never watched it, you ought to watch it. I think it's like free on Pluto TV or something like that. There's no excuse not to watch it. It's a great kids movie. It's a great kids horror movie. So just reading the back of the book. Got to get the cheaters out because the light's a little low in here. Who are we, if not for the monsters that we keep? They Hide. Short stories to tell in the dark. Collects 13 chilling tales that weave through the shadows, exploring the nature of fear, powerlessness, and control. A series of murders in a New England colony. An untamed beast in pre-revolutionary France. A mysterious stranger who invades 18th century Ireland. A traveling circus that takes more than the price of admission. A gathering of the dark telling tales of the longest night of the year, and more. Come play with vampires, werewolves, ghosts, zombies, ghouls, and the devil himself. Make sure you check under the bed and don't turn out the lights. So, that's the blurb. Let's start with what I liked about it. So the problem is reviewing short story anthologies is they're all different stories. They're all going to kind of resonate differently. So some of them are going to be more memorable to you than others. So it's hard to talk about it in a uniform book. But what I will say is all the stories here were rock solid. They were all kind of PG-13ish, maybe soft R. They were, like you could hand this to a 13-year-old, as far as I was concerned. I didn't see anything there that was too terrible. Well, the first one did have a lot of gore in it. I wouldn't say that, but I mean, it there wasn't a lot of. It wasn't any sex in the book. Wasn't any. I don't even remember too many, any curse words in the book, to be honest. I'd have to go back and look again, but I mean, it was a very horror tends to focus on the PG-13, right? And some of those PG-13s can get a bit gory. I was just rewatching the latest Grudge movie, which was a complete American thing. And there's one point where she's chopping carrots, and turns out it ain't carrots, it's her fingers, right? So we were at that level of gore. Movie studios like making their horror movies PG-13 because it opens up the audience and they can make more money, right? If it's R, they're limited to 18 plus. If it's PG-13, they got all the teenagers. That's a whole another 5 years of demographics they can grab. So this is kind of in that same vein, right? It's not too terribly gory. It's not doesn't have any kind of really adult content in it. I wouldn't give it to an 8-year-old. But I mean, if you're in the teen bracket, the book is a good fit. Teen and above, right? And it wasn't dumbed down, so as an adult, I enjoyed it. So, with that said, there wasn't, it focuses more on creep factor than hardcore scares, right? Um, you're not going to have like eviscerated bat women or anything like that. It's going to be more, um, chilling, very very creep show, Tales from the Crypt kind of vibes when you read this. Which again, totally fine, totally cool. I mean, I grew up with stuff like that, things that were on broadcast television. Tales from the Darkside, where the stories had to be tame enough to be on broadcast television. So that's the niche this thing is in. And like I said, if you're my age and you grew up waiting till midnight, 1 a.m. so you can watch Tales from the Darkside and you're trying to stay awake as the credits roll, kind of thing, you're going to dig with this book. In terms of critiques, in terms of things I didn't like about it, not really anything. I guess my only critique is because it is hitting that kind of, scary but not gory. We're more Tales from the Darkside and less Terrifier. That it could have hit harder for me. But that's more personal taste than a critique. Some of the stories, again, were really good and really kind of creepy, but, nothing that was giving me lingering nightmares afterwards as an adult, right? I will say the first book, or the first short story, was probably the goriest, because we are talking about 18th century American colony, and something like, it starts off, something killed a family, and it does talk about the after. It doesn't show the killings, but it shows the aftermath, which was probably the most brutal part of the entire collection of short stories. And the last one was a bit of a cheat. I gotta give him on this one, because the last short story was a bunch of monsters getting together and telling short stories. And it's like, you're saying it's 13 tales, but this last one is like 5 different tales in one. You're triple dipping here. You're quadruple tipping. You're kind of hedging your numbers here a bit. I mean, you do that on your accounting, that's tax fraud. You know what I'm saying? No, this is just one. It's like, no, that's like 5 stories in one. You're faker, But no, that I mean, again, I'm picking on the edges here because it's a good, solid book. It was a fun read. Some stories were more fun or more memorable than others, for me. But again, we're getting into personal taste there, and not necessarily quality of the writing. The writing was rock solid all the way through, and just no notes. So yeah, if you are a fan of horror, if you are more of a casual reader or even a younger reader, maybe you're trying to get your 16-year-old into horror, They Hide would be a good shot. That would be a good recommendation. So that's it for this week's podcast. Keeping things short because it's been a busy week. We will be at Creep I.E. Aftermath this July. So we got about a month before we do another convention. So see us out in Ontario. And until then, keep on reading.